one of the songs that shows up on my feed nearly daily is people using the sound of Made for More like crazy.
I remember just hearing my kids sing some of those lines, like, I know who I am because I know who you are. And my kids might not even fully know what they're singing, but like they're singing this song that's just reaffirming their identity in Christ. And in this age of social media and all the things that are trying to come at us and especially our children and sway them and sway their identity and tell them who they should be or who they shouldn't be.
Leading people in worship night after night. What are you seeing God doing right now?
They're not ashamed to talk about it. They're not ashamed to show that, hey, I have found Jesus. I get blessed to lead worship and sing in places all over this country, and there are people going after the Lord.
Guys, I'm excited to tell you about the Trans-Siberian Orchestra Winter Tour. I feel like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra has become synonymous with the Christmas season. It's an incredible family-friendly show from ages 8 to 80 and family-friendly prices. So be sure to check out when they're coming to a city near you. To get your tickets, go to trans-siberian.com and don't miss this once-in-a-lifetime Christmas concert. Check them out, trans-siberian.com, and go see them on tour this Christmas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Matthew West Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew West, and as always, I really hope you like it. I'm so excited for today's guest. He's a friend of mine, incredibly talented worship leader and songwriter, and he's got an awesome new EP out called Full Grown Man. And he is a full-grown man, so we're going to hang out with him, get to hear his story. Man, we have had a blast this fall. Thank you for listening and watching the podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen or watch the podcast, whether it's on the official YouTube page for the Matthew West Podcast or any of the other outlets where you listen. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, okay? And leave comments. I love to hear what you guys are loving or what the Lord's speaking to you through this show. I hope that wherever and however this show steps into your life, that it points you closer to Jesus first and foremost. So the holidays are here. I hope you're loving the new Christmas album, Come Home for Christmas. Also want to remind you that my latest book, Come Home for Christmas, is a great little gift book that you want to give to your friends and family, but also maybe something you and your family or you yourself can just read through the holiday season just to come home to the heart of Christmas and what it's really all about. So just wanted to put those things on your radar. You can get the Come Home for Christmas book wherever you buy books, or you can go to MatthewWest.com. That's the easiest place as well. So let's get into today's show. My guest is, you know him from songs like Evidence, Stand to Your Love, and of course, the massive, incredible worship song, Made for More. He's got a new EP out. We're going to talk about all the things. Let's go to the Story House with Josh Baldwin. He's a full-grown man, and that's how we're going to start this episode. He's not a half-grown man. He's got a beard. He's, it's great. That's it. You're a full-grown man, right?
Yeah, fully grown.
That was the dumbest way to start the podcast episode, but it was the way your team told me I need to contractually mention the name of your new the title of your EP several times throughout the episode. But dude, it's great to see you, Josh. Thanks for joining me on the pod.
It's so good to see you, and it's an honor to be here.
We were supposed to hang in person, but out of great precaution, I woke up with crazy allergies, and I was like, just in case it's not allergies, I'm not going to get Josh Baldwin sick while he's like on the road or doing whatever. So I owe you lunch, and we'll hang in person at some point in the near future.
Let's do it,
dude. I'm going to start the show by just showering you with praise. So one, I'm just a huge fan of you, and I'm a huge fan of your voice and your songwriting and your music. And this EP has shown me what I've already thought I've known about you, but what maybe listeners of the podcast who know you from one type of song, like your massive worship anthems, like Evidence and Made for More, and the list goes on. One of my favorites to lead is My Fear Doesn't Stand a Chance When Standing Your Love is awesome, but you are incredibly diverse and eclectic. And before we started recording the podcast, that diversity was shown over your shoulder. For those who are watching on the official YouTube page, you can see vinyl covers over your shoulder of some of your eclectic taste in music, but it really comes through in your songwriting. And so I want to just like start by saying I love your new EP, Full Grown Man, and it is different than the songs that people might know you from when you're leading worship or when they're listening to, K-Love or whatever with songs like Made for More. So can we talk about your musical roots for a second and how they've informed, this ability for you to kind of step into different territories? Nobody wants to be pigeonholed as just one-dimensional when it comes to their artistry, and you've really kind of pushed the boundaries on this latest EP.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much. That means a lot. I mean, I'm from North Carolina. I'm from the South. I grew up, I didn't actually grow up listening to a ton of country music, but like I grew up with it around me, and I was more in, Americana, the alt country kind of stuff. And it's always even come out, even when I was leading worship or when I started writing worship songs, it just was naturally like down that lane.
Yeah.
And for years, honestly, I thought that was like a not a problem, but I just thought, man, maybe I shouldn't be so country. I'm just trying to lead worship, and then, as you grow and you're like, I want to write songs, not just for our church, but for the church. And maybe they won't sing them if they sound too, if it's like too country bumpkin from North Carolina, a church in, Washington State or Oregon might not grab a hold of that or whatever. And so I think for a while I tried to squash that a little bit, and some of it intentional and some of it not really. I just just thinking maybe I needed to be a certain way. And then I honestly, you're just bringing up Stand Your Love. Stand Your Love was the first song that I feel like gave me permission to be like, hey, songs just kind of naturally sound like this when they come out of you. And so like, just be yourself. And that was the song that most people like, that's the first time they ever heard anything from me was that song. And it meant a lot to me because I was like, this feels like a very country worship song to me. And that was the song that like launched a lot of things.
Wow.
And it felt like permission to be authentic.
Yeah.
And just let the music come out the way it's meant to. And, but yeah, I've always kind of had that country leaning in that lane. And then with this album, it felt like, I had these songs that I'd been sitting on for 4 or 5 years, and they didn't really fit with like, worship albums per se. And then I didn't want to put them on an album and maybe have them get lost in the, we all have that. I'm sure you have songs that you're like, man, I really love this song. It's like track 8. No one's going to, or it's going to get lost.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's fine. You're like, well, that kind of is what it is. But there was a handful of these. I was like, I don't want that. I'll sat on them for years because I was like, if I don't have like something specific for them, a place to put them on, then I'll wait until that happens. And then, finally years later, I just was like, I think I have a group of songs that fit down the same stream. They're fully like, they're me singing about or to Jesus.
Yeah.
But they are down this lane that maybe the other songs that I've written in the past don't go down. And it's nice to have that outlet to just release more of who I am.
It's awesome. And it's funny when you mentioned Stand Your Love, it's like that makes total sense that it was like seeing how that song was embraced, but it is fully you. It's got the Southern roots to it. And your voice is the common thread through it all. Like I feel like this EP is gonna, and you're probably already experiencing how it's reaching a different audience. Cause I feel like sometimes we don't give people enough credit. Like it's like whatever it is that forces us into being more one-dimensional in our artistry, even if that's not our nature. Like I feel like now more than ever, like people who are listening to music, they want you to like, they want to go different places with you. So I love that you kind of pulled these songs together, and there is a DNA to these songs that like they all go together. And you said you've held on to these aren't like new songs. These are songs that you'd write and kind of tuck away. Is that right? Yeah.
It all, actually only one of them is like pretty new. I wrote one of them, Salvation Song, I wrote this year, and the other four are at least 3 years old, and some of them, Full Grown Man was the first song and that I wrote for this, and I wrote that song 5 years ago.
Okay.
And yeah.
And for those who haven't listened to the EP yet, I introduced you as a full-grown man, which you are. But the song is about the life of Jesus, which I love. Like you literally tell the story of Jesus growing up and teaching the religious leaders in the temple, and talk about the heart behind that song and what that's about.
You know, so I love how that song started, because even us talking about country music and all that at the beginning of this, I was just sitting. I was still living in Northern California, up in Redding, at the time. I was sitting on the porch, or back porch, with my buddy, my best friend David Paleo, and we were just talking about his son. His son was, I think, was 11 at the time, and I was just joking around. I've always said, like, his son's like one of those kids that's like an old soul kind of kid.
Yeah.
He's like 11 years old, but really like walks around like an old man.
He's seen some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, why does he seem like he's got more wisdom than I do? And so I can't remember if I said it or one of us joked around about him being like a full grown man at a real young age. And then I was joking around. I was like, I got to write a country song about that.
Full
that
grown
just
man.
feels like a line you would hear.
Yeah.
And I think I even sat down and messed around with it. And then I was like, I mean, I don't even know how, like, people are always like, dude, you should write country. And I'm like, well, I mean, I feel like I do write country songs. They're just about Jesus.
Which I love.
I mean, it does. Yeah, they do sound like, but, and so I just started thinking about that line and thought, man, the Lord, like Jesus, he was an old soul. Like, he's eternal. And he was the 12-year-old kid that was talking to leaders, and they're like, who is this kid? Like, he's like an old soul here, Yeah. And so I was like, man, what if I just even applied that line to like the life of Jesus, and thinking about him being that 12-year-old, him even his first miracle, he was, young then. And then even when he was crucified, like, to think about, he's only 33 years old.
Right.
Like I think that song, it was me trying to write a song, not just about Jesus, Son of God, but him, Son of Man.
Yeah.
And just really think of him as like, he actually walked the earth. He lived this life. Like, what did he look like to people?
Yeah.
And he was this young kid who just had this wisdom beyond his years. And so, and that song always felt special to me. And I was like, I don't want this song to get lost on an album. I don't know that it's like a radio song per se.
Sure.
Or it's not, and it's not going to be probably a song that I'm going to lead on a Sunday morning at church.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to do with it. Honestly, it was a little like frustrating, honestly, because I was like, I feel like I have a song that it means so much to me, but I don't know where to put it. And then a couple of the other songs kind of came out of conversations I was having with people about this song.
Yeah.
And then we wrote a song called Older that kind of touches on the same themes, but talking more about God the Father. And as years went on, I realized I think this is its own thing.
Yeah.
And it all kind of centers around Jesus and the life of Jesus and who he is to me. But it's not necessarily down any other lane, like I was saying earlier. So
to me,
that's how it started.
It hit me this morning when I was listening to it, of like, sometimes I think anybody who reads the Bible for any amount of time, it's like, we know God's word is alive, and it can hit us on a personal level, but still sometimes there can feel like there's this distance between us and the stories of the Bible. And it's like that song beautifully like paints the picture of the humanity of Jesus coming to earth and as a child and growing up, and his mom looking for him. And like, it gave me, it's kind of what the Chosen series has done for so many people, where it's like, or taking a trip to the Holy Land, or where it kind of like, it hits you on a real level and kind of helps you, in your own human mind, kind of puts skin on the stories, for lack of a better way of saying it. So the song and it made me think, like, when they do a Chosen soundtrack, which I'm sure they're doing, and I think they're working on it now, I was like, boy, that song, the Chosen team needs to hear that song, because it just beautifully just paints the humanity of Jesus when he walked the earth, which is incredible. I want to, when you grew up in North Carolina, like, do you remember, like, did you grow up in a church or in a Christian home or?
Yeah, I'm a PK. I'm a PK just like you,
buddy. So were you leading worship at a young age and singing songs in your dad's church, mom and dad's church?
Yeah. So my dad's a pastor, but he was also into music and he would lead worship too. And I grew up playing drums with him. I think I was like 12 years old when I started playing drums in our church. And then I think I was in high school. I was like 16 years old when I grabbed the acoustic and learned, just enough chords to play some simple songs. And that was when it hit me, like, okay, I didn't know that I wanted to do that the rest of my life. That was the mid to the late 90s. And it wasn't like, I don't know that I thought being a worship leader for a career was like super wise. Like, it was like, go get a real job, and then you can also lead worship at your church. By then, now it's more of a, you can even go to college for it and all the things,
Yeah.
So
what was your other real job going to be? Did you have another plan?
I don't know.
No other. So
no, I had no plans.
Okay,
I had no plans. I was a mobile home. I worked at a mobile home factory for like a year and a half and saved up money for ministry school. I laid linoleum tile at Clayton Mobile Homes in Albemarle, North Carolina.
So a mobile home would be like, would a double wide be like another term? Yeah.
Yeah, double wide.
Double wide. Well, they have single wides, and I mean, tell us all that you know about mobile homes.
Okay, well, it's been 25 years now, but we worked on double wides mostly. Okay, and
that's amazing.
And yeah, I just laid the linoleum. I was the one tile guy in the whole place. Laid the linoleum tile. I mean, it wasn't like super nice,
but you were kind of a carpenter, just like Jesus.
Just like Jesus, much like our Lord and Savior.
When you were playing drums for your dad and your dad was leading worship, like, do you remember? Because I remember the songs. We're probably close in age, but like the worship songs that were just epic back then. But is there one that you remember going, "Oh my gosh, I love this song"? Back in the day,
well, there were a lot. I think we got a hold. I remember my dad getting a hold of an old a Christ for the Nations CD, an album, actually probably cassette back then. And they were like, we played every song from that one, everything from this really chill song that was called "The Balm of Gilead."
Whoa!
That is like we're worshiping on Sunday. The Balm of Gilead.
Wow!
It's great. I mean, it was great, but just now I can't imagine like writing a song and thinking
with that title.
Well, yeah, that's what we're gonna sing. I think there was one song, "Mighty is our God." Mighty is our King, ruler of every. That. But then one of the first songs. Well, this is funny because I actually just posted about this on my Instagram this past week. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were like, "What was the first song do you remember like leading at church? On like with your guitar?" And I think I was like 16, 17, and I could play like 3 chords. So this song, "I See the Lord" by Andy Park.
Okay.
I think it was a Vineyard song. But then I think like the Brownsville, Lyndall Cooley kind of made it popular too.
Okay.
But this simple song, DCG, the whole song. And I was like, "I see the Lord and his train fills the temple."
Nice.
Angels cry holy. And I was talking about that the other day to my friend, and then 2 days later, I'm scrolling through my computer looking for my wife was asking, we were trying to get old videos to show our kids of them when they were kids. And I found a picture of me when I'm 17 years old or 18 in 1998 singing that song. Like, it's a picture of me, and then behind me you can see the overhead projector.
Oh, nice.
Because we didn't have Pro Presenter.
Of course, yeah.
You see the overhead projector and the words, it's that song, "I See the Lord and his train," and I'm sitting there holding it, and I was like,
it brought back some memories.
So,
that's amazing.
Oh, it's just nostalgia. And so, I had to say something about it.
I remember that, like, you would put the it was on the projector, but did you have where you'd put the gosh, what do you call that?
Transparency?
Yeah, the transparency with the lyrics written on marker over the thing.
Oh, yeah.
I think, didn't Mavericks...
That's how, if you were doing a new song, that's what you had to do. You had to write it out.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like Maverick City did a song. Maybe it was on Old Church Basement or something that kind of talked about they may have even used the term transfer. They talked about that piece of equipment or something, but I remember being brought back.
I think it's even, I think it's the, I think it's the cover, like the artwork is like
that's what it was. It was on the cover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which brought that just flooded me with memories because growing up and leading worship in my parents, the one that came to mind for me as I was asking you that question was 2 songs. It was, give thanks with a grateful heart.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Give thanks to the Holy One. But then that one always threw me because I didn't know enough chords, and it had this big like key change. And now that the week says.
That was a lot of songs back then where there's always like one chord where the guitar player's like, I just kind of laid off. Like, shout to the Lord.
Yes.
Shout to the Lord had that one chord where you're just like, I'm just going to lay off on this one.
I would just stop playing.
We're modulating.
I'd let the piano player take that section. Or I loved As the Deer. That was like, I don't know if that was
my dad
time.
Wore that song out. No, we wore that one out, and we did a lot of those Jewish sounding songs. They rush on the city, they run on the wall.
When the Spirit of the Lord moves in my heart, I will dance. That's so
like David. Oh gosh, that was how I learned to play drums. Just boop chip, boop chip,
yes.
Boop, chip, boop, chip.
Have you ever somebody's got to do like a throwback worship night where it's just because like in Nashville they'll do that with they'll have 90s country nights and it's like they'll only play. In fact, do you know Dave Barnes? He's a great singer-songwriter. He called me not long ago. He's like, hey, we do this 90s country night. You can pick any 90s hit that you want to cover. But it has to be 90s country, which I grew up loving 90s country. So, but there's got to be like an old school worship night where you can only do
some
the
80s, 90s worship. Yeah.
That would
be awesome.
So did you, I'm curious with obviously how did you get connected with Bethel worship? Like how did that step begin for you?
Yeah. I moved to Charlotte. I was in Charlotte. And the ministry that I was a part of there, I was a worship pastor at one of the churches there. Actually, it was in the mountains of North Carolina, middle of nowhere. They were friends with Bethel, just kind of sister ministries. And a lot of times Brian and Jen would come out to our conferences, and then a lot of our people would go out to Bethel and lead worship at their conference. So that's how I met Brian and Jen. I think I met Brian and Jen in 2007.
Okay.
So we're coming up on 20 years of knowing them. And I was just a single dude, not married, living by myself, leading worship, playing drums. I traveled and played drums with art worship artists here and there. Rita Springer, I traveled with her for a couple years. And then that's how I got to know them. And then that was 2007. 7 years later, after just meeting them and doing that kind of thing back and forth from here to California visiting, I released my own album that I just did it on Kickstarter. Just
independently
worship album with and I did what you do. You send it to all your friends and all your ministry, and especially back then, it's just CDs. You send all your CDs to and so I sent one out to all my friends in Reading, and they started leading some of those songs at their church, and I got even more connected with Bethel through that. And then finally, I think 2014, I went out there. I was just leading worship at the church for a weekend, and that was when they asked, do you want to? We're kind of ramping up Bethel Music more as a label too, and not just a worship movement. Do you want to be a part? And I was like, yeah, that sounds well. And the thing too is they were like, you don't need to move here. Like, we want you to stay in Charlotte and be at your, because I had just been a part of a church plant there, and I was a worship pastor and just a little church. We had maybe 150 people. And I was one of those where I was a worship pastor, but I was also doing I was like the only full-time staff member. So I was doing it all. So I didn't want to move, and I felt like I couldn't leave that place. And so I was like, I'd love, this is the best of both worlds. I'll stay here in Charlotte, but then be a part of Bethel Music and get to, write songs with them and travel some. But we did that for a year. And then I was like, you know what? I want to be out there. I want to be all in.
Be part of it.
And so Yeah,
So
we
you
moved
were
out there.
So
in
you were early
2015.
days with Bethel then.
Yeah, it's been 11 years now.
Hey, did you know that I'm going to be on tour coming up very soon? The Don't Stop Praying tour is on sale now. Hitting the road this fall, a select amount of cities, MatthewWest.com, all your city and ticket information. We've got some special VIP tickets as well where we can hang out in person. Don't miss your chance to join me on the Don't Stop Praying tour this fall. Go to MatthewWest.com to get your tickets today. I have a question. Like I was thinking about, I was getting to talk to you, and I know my own experience, but I think people listening to the podcast would, be curious about this as well. Like you lead worship all across the country and all around the world. Do you actively lead worship at a church where you live now, or are you an artist in residence?
Yeah.
Or I'm just curious, like, you grew up a preacher's kid, you've been in and around church your whole life now, but what does that look like when you're off the road?
Well, I'll start with, I was a worship leader and pastor for years. And then that was my whole life. And then we moved to Reading, and all my time there, Bethel, I led worship probably at least once a month on Sundays, and then sometimes twice. And it was all volunteer. We're not like paid to do it. So I didn't have to, but it was just, this is who I am. This is how I serve the church. And then I'll tell you what, when we moved here, I live in Franklin, Tennessee. That was the first time in my life I had ever moved somewhere and it not been because of a church. I grew up a preacher's kid. So that was where I went to church. And then after that, I went to ministry school. So that's where I went. And then I was a worship pastor. So everything I did any move I made was because of, I'm going to this church. And this was the first time I came here and I was like, I guess we're going to have to go church shopping, which I'd never done in my life. That felt so foreign to me. And, but I'm a part of a church that's actually just right down the road. It's called Hope UC, Hope Unlimited Church. Dustin Smith is the pastor who is a songwriter in town. He actually wrote I Speak Jesus.
Oh, wow.
And
great song.
He's written some other worship songs. Yeah. But we go there on Sundays, and then especially when I'm home. And I lead worship maybe once every 2 or 3 months, just whenever I'm asked. And and I'm not like an artist, and I don't get paid for it. I just serve and lead. So I kind of took a year off when we moved here and didn't lead, and I felt like it was good for me just to kind of just go to church and be at church with my family.
Yeah.
And then I started to feel like, man, I feel like this is I would be even more connected to my church by work, and not just because like, well, I'm a worship leader. I think I need to be leading, but I told my wife, I was like, I mean, it is what I do. It is like my job per se, in quotes, but like, it's also how I've always like served in church. Like if I grew up in the way I serve is I'm always like in the kids ministry or doing that, then there's a certain point in time where I'm like, I'm a part of this church. Like I need to get involved with the kids. This is how I've always, and so I felt that with our church here. I was like, actually, I need to like get involved. Like if they, in the worship and in music, I'll feel even more connected. So that's a long answer.
No,
but
I love
yes,
that.
I go to church.
Well,
go to church just down the road.
The reason why I asked is just I was always curious, like, because I know my own experience and the challenges that I have when I'm not on stage and just at a worship service. But I'm always curious, like, what is someone like Josh Baldwin, who's typically, getting the honor of leading thousands and thousands of people everywhere around the country in worship, like when you're standing with the congregation, like, do you find that refreshing? Do you find that to be a challenge to, like, sometimes I can't turn my musical brain off and I'm listening to the chord changes and I'm like, Lord, just help me be a worshiper and not a worship leader. Like, can you take me in your brain a little bit when you find yourself with the people? Is it refreshing to not have that burden on you for a Sunday and you just get to lean in, or are you in the audience going, why aren't they doing Josh Baldwin songs? No, I'm just kidding. But what's that experience like for a worship leader when you're off for a Sunday and you're just you're there with the congregation?
I mean, there's definitely I mean, I definitely have to like turn some stuff off. I mean, I think that's just normal. I think that's in anything you do, no matter what it would be. I think I would, if you were doing it and you weren't in charge, you would definitely have to like monitor, like, okay, this doesn't matter right now. Just worship. And so there's definitely some of that. I've gotten better at it. I think when I first moved here, and I think also I was trying to find a church, like where are we even going to be?
Yeah.
And so then you have a list and you're just like checking things off or Xing it, like, nope, there, and so I did have to, I didn't like that. That felt weird to me to go to church and be like trying to judge, like, is this where I'm supposed to be? Are they doing everything like the way I want it done? But I think more so now that we're even more involved with our church here, I've gotten better at turning that off and just worshiping and not caring about, what's happening. And I think too, I'm at a church too where they just go for it. They worship. It's hard when you're in a room like that where like you can feel that like the majority of people don't care like what they look like or what's happening. They're just like they were just worshiping. It kind of forces you to just be like, okay, let's just focus on the Lord and not care about the sound and that. Honestly, I think most of it probably is the same. Well, probably because we're blessed. We live in Nashville and music wise, the worst worship team here in Nashville is better than most churches all over our country.
Yeah.
I mean,
we are spoiled.
And so, we're spoiled. So it's not as much like I'm like, oh man, I would have gone back to the bridge here if you'd have done this or build it right here, it would have like exploded and gone into this amazing, I do less of that and more of like, wow, the sound is horrible or, that kind of thing. It's more like, oh gosh, I wish this sounded better.
Yeah.
So I have to shut that part off.
Yeah, for sure.
A little more. I think too, just being in a room that's where you see and feel people going after the Lord helps shut that down a little bit better.
We interrupt the podcast for a very important public service announcement that starts like this. Ahoy, mateys. Okay, that was stupid, but hey, I'm excited to tell you that pretty soon this podcast will be at sea. That's right. I'm going to Alaska and I'm inviting you to come with me. It's going to be an incredible time. July 12th through the 19th, 2026. We're going to Alaska together, and cabins have sold incredibly fast. There are only a limited number left, but I want to encourage you to go ahead and check out MatthewWest.com. Again, the cruise is already 50% sold out. It's called Story House at Sea, an Alaskan cruise. Join Matthew West, me, and my entire family, and some special guests. You don't want to miss it. If you've always wanted to go to Alaska and never had the chance, if you've always wanted to go on a cruise and never had the chance, this is your chance to plan ahead. July 12th through the 19th, 2026. Cabins and tickets are available now at MatthewWest.com. Well, and speaking of like people going after the Lord, like one of the things that's always struck me about you as an artist and worship leader is, and I believe everybody's got I want to believe when artists get on stage or worship leaders get on stage, like their intentions are right. And yet there is like this kind of, performative thing that can take over in a church service setting that can be maybe a distraction at times. But you're one of those people that gets up on stage and it's like, you're not at any point like, sending the message to the audience, look at me as we worship. And I'm curious, like, as you came up in your dad's church, as you became part of the Bethel program, like, were there things that you learned along the way, or people that you watched, maybe your dad or others, that kind of showed you, okay, what does it mean to be a worship leader, and what does it mean to like, I'm just curious, what are some of your foundational pieces, things that maybe even you remind yourself before you walk and step on stage to assume that role of doing what you said, what you've been called to do all these years, and how do you make it not about you and just pointing people in the right direction at every turn?
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I think you mentioned my dad. I think I was very blessed to right out of the gate be around someone like him who just has such a heart for worship and There's not like much of a performance kind of thing in him, you know, and the perform thing, I don't feel like that's bad. I just mean like,
Sure.
He's not like that. And, I grew up watching him and being a part of it with him. I think even playing drums with him, I didn't realize how much I learned about leading worship just by just being a drummer with my dad leading. And I think even practically drums, you can do a lot more leading and damage or good to a worship set as the drummer than maybe any other musician so I think that helped. And I think I have been surrounded by people who were very, very skilled and grounded and good at pointing people towards the Lord and not themselves necessarily. And I feel like I fell in love with worship and music, but like it was because I loved Jesus and fell in love with him. But then through the worship, I fell more in love with Jesus. And I say that because like I remember my 20s, like I would just be in I lived in a little house by myself in the mountains of North Carolina, in the middle of nowhere. And I just spent so much time in that house, just playing my acoustic and just worshiping and just, I remember pacing the dirt road next to my house, just talking. And it was, for so many years when probably I wanted it to be like me in front of a ton of people and just, you know, doing the thing, it wasn't happening, and it was just me and the Lord. And so I think in a way it kind of like grounded me in a way where it's just like, no, actually that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
And out of that place, I feel like it'll flow. And that's what will touch people and help people lead them to him. And I just, I think even that means a lot that we even see that. I mean, that's my prayer a lot of times is I want to be a strong leader. Like I have this like false sense of like, don't look at me. And you know, like I also like understand, like I'm writing songs. I've been given songs that I feel like are touching people and helping people, and people are obviously going to look to me and want to sing with me. And I know, you know, and the more things I do where it's not just worship, where it's also like even getting into the radio world and doing things like this,
right.
Like I feel like I'm always like, I never know where I'm getting into, you know. It's like, am I going to a church and leading worship? Is this a festival or more like a concert or what, you know, like I'm always like, which Josh Baldwin are they expecting? Are they expecting like Caleb Josh Baldwin or Bethel Josh, you know, so like, and so I think I'm kind of straddling the line here and there. And that's not like a bad thing.
No, I know what
just
you're
like
saying though.
But also trying to stay true to who I am. Like I just want to like, I just feel like I'm called to like help people sing to Jesus better, to dumb it down super like I'm like, and if I can do that in a way where maybe they look at me and seeing me do that helps them, but also in a way where they also can kind of see past me, and I feel like that's what worship leading is. It's like, it's grabbing the people and being like, hey, come with me. Let's go to a place. I've actually been there before. It's really awesome. I want to help you get there.
I love that.
And I'll get out. And once we get there, I'm going to get out of the way.
I love that. Dude, that sums it up, the heart of it. And that would make sense why that's your prayer, because that's how it comes across. It's like, see past me, come with me. Let's do, like, I love everything you just said. I want to ask you, like, in the age of social media, one of the songs that shows up on my feed nearly daily is people using the sound of Made for More like crazy.
Oh, wow.
And you know,
wow.
what has it been like for you to see, you know, just the same mentality that you just shared of going like, hey, see past me. I want to like sing. I love how you said helping people sing to Jesus better, like dumbing it down to the most common denominator. But then to see a song like that be applied to so many people's lives, and like and then seeing the social media component of it. But like that song, just walk me through what that's been like, seeing how the Lord's used a song like that he gave to you impact so many people's lives, and doing it in the modern world, not, you know, even apart from a congregational experience, but the congregation spills over into TikTok and people are just posting that sound nonstop. It's been so cool to see.
Yeah. No, it's been crazy. I don't even think I'm bad about. I mean, I'm on Instagram more than any of the other ones. I'm rarely on TikTok, so I didn't even. My dad's on TikTok all the time, which is hilarious. But he's mostly sending me like the funny TikToks here and there.
Yeah.
But he's the one that he's like, dude, your song's blowing up on TikTok. And I was like, really? And so he'll send me these
That's
things.
funny.
I'm like, oh, that's amazing. But I mean, that song's been life-changing for me in so many ways. But well, I'll tell the story because I wrote that song like 4 years ago. And it was for 2 years. We sat on it. I sit on songs for a while. I've realized that now just talking about this with you.
I like that though. That tells me they're timeless because you know what I mean. It's not awesome. A momentary sound or a trend kind of thing that you're chasing. It's like let the song breathe. I love it.
That makes sense. I think when I realized the power, just in the message of that song, I was listening to the demo in my truck and taking my kids to school one morning, and we had listened to it enough as a family that they knew it, and I remember just hearing my kids sing some of those lines, like I know who I am because I know who you are, and singing the I wasn't made to be tending, just all those lines, and I realized like my kids might not even fully know what they're singing, but like they're singing this song that's just reaffirming their identity in Christ. And in this age of social media and all the things that are trying to come at us and especially our children and sway them and sway their identity and tell them who they should be or who they shouldn't be. That was when it hit me how powerful the message of the song is and how probably needed it was. And so then when it came out and then it really it took hold, it was unbelievable. But I think what I love about even people, the whole phenomenon with like taking the song and the sound and throwing it on either people singing it themselves or just like, or I've seen a lot of people put it doing like they're getting baptized and they're coming up out of the water. And even just recently, like there were even recently after the Charlie Kirk murder, I saw like college football players like posting it and they're all kneeling down and having that song. And I'm just like, I love too that they're not posting my face. They're not posting like me singing it. They probably have no idea who sings that song, but it's just like the message of the song getting out over top their, like the things that the Lord's done in their life or doing. And that I think that's pretty amazing, pretty special. And
it points back to the seeing past you kind of thing, where the message of the truth in that song. It's like exactly what you said, because I've seen those same videos of somebody getting baptized or a football team kneeling in the end zone. It's like, oh, this is, I want to close by coming back to your EP, but real quick before we do, you get a front row seat. Like I feel like guys like us, we get the blessing of seeing from the stage what God is doing, how he's moving. And obviously you mentioned what happened with Charlie Kirk and just heavy times in our world as we head towards the close of this year. But in the midst of such darkness, we see I don't think it's an overstatement to say that there feels to be this spiritual awakening taking place. I'm just curious from your vantage point as Josh Baldwin out there leading people in worship night after night, what are you seeing God doing right now?
Oh man, I think people are hungry and you can feel it. You can feel it on social media. Social media annoys me so much sometimes, but there's some amazing blessings about being able to like see people change, like, just see people talk about how much, they're turning towards the Lord. And I think that's special, but I think we're blessed to get to travel, you and I and our friends, and see churches all over our country, or see like pockets of people where you think like, oh man, the Lord really needs to touch this state or this city. And you go there and you're like, dude, there are hungry people everywhere in this country. And I've had multiple conversations with people over the last 3 or 4 years where they're like, man, whatever, there might be doom and gloom and they're sad or depressed or whatever. I'm like, listen, yes, there's things we need to go after and pray for, but also I get blessed to lead worship and sing in places all over this country. And there are people going after the Lord like everywhere in this place, and it's very encouraging. And in some of the darkest places, that's where the people are. That's the people that I'm like, wow, I want a relationship with the Lord like you guys have. Like, I mean, sometimes it feels super easy to love Jesus in Tennessee. You know, it's some of the places where, you know, the darker it is, you know, obviously the light shines brighter. And I'm very encouraged by what's been happening over the last year or two, but then also, recently you can feel the just the push and people going after the Lord. And I think the thing is, it's not just that people are beginning to be they're not ashamed.
Yeah.
You know, and they're not ashamed to talk about it. They're not ashamed to show that, hey, I have found Jesus and it's changed my life. Or, hey, I'm actually going to go after Jesus. I'm going to go after this thing that I hear everybody talking about and see what it is, and just like being very open about it. And it's very encouraging.
Well said. And the Lord's using your songs to help people in their journey of faith in a major way. And I want to just close by writing down a lyric from your EP, or reading out a lyric that I wrote down this morning as I was listening in the opening song on Full Grown Man Volume 1, which tells me that there's another volume coming. So
that's
which is exciting.
That was the plan. That's the plan. I was tricking my team into letting me have more volumes.
I love that. Speaking it into existence. But track 1, there's a song called For Dear Life, which is just beautiful. But there's a line that just made me think about, you know, what's happening in our world right now and just what you're pointing the listener to. But it says, let the waters rise and let the storms blow through. I'll be holding on for dear life to you. There's one great lyric after the other on this EP, and I want to encourage everybody today to find 15-20 minutes of quiet and turn on this EP and dive into these beautiful songs that you've done on Full Grown Man, but just a great reminder of who Jesus is, listening to that song and understanding the man of Jesus and the Savior that Jesus is. Obviously the other song, what's the other one? I want to pull it up real quick. Salvation Song. It's so awesome. Just one great song after the other. But I loved that reminder of just who we need to be clinging to for dear life. Yeah. And man, I love that you're doing, whether you hold on to a song for 6 years or whatever, that letting them see the light of day is a gift to those who need these songs. And so I'm so glad that you put this EP together. I love that your artistry continues to stretch. It makes me think of like some of my favorites, like Matt Maher, of just like, Matt Maher can write an incredible worship song that is led in church on Sunday. And then he can write these other songs that aren't typically the song that you're going to hear in church. And I, as an artist who's always fought against being like pigeonholed, I love it when I get to see other artists going, hey, you know what? This is another dimension, another color, another brush stroke, a different canvas that I want to use to explore not only my artistry. It's not vanity projects. This is just like, hey, one of the best ways I've been able to boil it down is like, my creator, God is not a one-dimensional God, and neither are the things that he creates. And so for us to just draw lines around how God's going to use us is us being too small-minded in the grand picture of how God wants to use our lives, our creativity. And so I love this EP for all of those reasons as well, not to mention just pound for pound, song for song. People are going to be blessed by these songs. So, man, I was glad to have you on just to tell people about the new music and to celebrate how the Lord's using the music you've already had out. So, dude, we're cheering you on, and thank you for hanging and sharing your story a little bit.
Oh, thank you so much. So fun. Just fun to talk and hang. This is great.
Next time in person, when the allergies aren't taking over, we'll hang in person. Thanks, Josh Baldwin. Hey, thanks for joining me. Thanks to my guest, Josh Baldwin. Be sure to listen to his music every chance you get. It's available everywhere. The latest EP, Full Grown Man Volume 1. It is such a chill EP that's going to put you in just such a place. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, just, you're going to love it. Go listen to it. His voice is incredible. His songs are awesome. Full Grown Man is the latest EP. Of course, all of his other incredible music available everywhere you listen to music. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following the podcast. Thanks for letting me be part of your life. Speaking of your life, you get one shot at this life. Make the most of it. It's your story for his glory. See you next week.
This winter, experience the ultimate rock Christmas tradition. Trans-Siberian Orchestra, live in concert, presenting The Ghosts of Christmas Eve, the best of TSO and more. An awe-inspiring blend of rock, classical, and holiday music for the entire family. Don't miss this season's most exciting concert experience. Trans-Siberian Orchestra, coming to a city near you. Go to TSOtickets.com for info.